Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy GZTV back with another video, and it is halftime of the Women's National Championship, so I figured I'd give you guys a review on a crazy surprise album, 12 track. I guess it's the mixtape. I think it's the fourth mixtape he's ever released. We have Might Delete Later. What a crazy time. This is an insane response to Kendrick, I guess. Like 2 weeks after, and we'll get to 7 Minute Drill. That's literally the last song on the album, and he strategically placed it there. But man, a decent amount of features for a Cole album as well. You know, kind of going into this like just kind of like going into the album. You know, we are kind of awaiting the Kendrick response. Obviously, Kendrick had a diss towards him and Drake on Like That, which was a great song, probably one of the best songs that came out this year. But I think Might Delete Later in itself kind of has some of the best songs that came out this year. This is a little bit of a fix before the Fall Off, which is an album that's coming out from him later this year, I think. Kind of his farewell. I think he's going to be done rapping after that. Hopefully, the Fall Off is a classic. I mean, considering that the songs on here are some throwaways, I think it is going to be really dope. So we're going to go by track. There's a lot of really good songs on here that I'm going to kind of give a brief review. So getting into track one, which is Pricey. It's kind of a song about overcoming obstacles. It's a pretty strong intro. It's a pretty strong way to open up the album, and this is a pretty feature-stacked album. It's obviously, you know, talking about the struggle and the come up and, you know, getting through stuff. You get a strong hook from Ari Lennox and Young Dro as well. You get a very insightful verse to close out by Gucci Mane as well. That was a really dope verse. Very poetic stuff from Gucci. I was quite shocked with him on that. That sounded really good. I didn't think he had that in him. I'm sure Cole probably helped him out a little bit. And it kind of reminds you of like that rodeo, you know, what T.I. did with Travis Scott's rodeo at the start. Success is possible, but sometimes improbable. That is kind of what the point of this song is. It's like conceptually, this album does seem kind of like an off-season throwaway collection. But if you think this sounds anything like the off-season, you're lying and you're being weird. But it's a very good groove. Really some gangster shit here from J. Cole to open up the album. I think it's a really, really good opener. So at track two is Crocodile Tears. I mean, sounding hungrier than ever on this track. There's a few tracks on this album that he just sounds hungry on, and this is definitely one of them. Great lyricism, awesome bars on here. You know, the reasonable doubt bar. The fall off is like Hove dropping reasonable doubt last. Like, that's crazy. Rapping like he's got something to prove per usual. I mean, that's pretty normal for J. Cole. You got the sinister piano and these like haunting horns in the background, and it's really dope. It's got this super sinister, super like, oh, it's over. Like I'm dead ass right now. You know, it's a very serious track. It was a track I was really looking forward to him dropping on the Fall Off, but yeah, it's just throwaway, thrown on a mixtape. I thought this was definitely album quality, which it definitely is. A cold track, so tough, man. I mean, the flows are probably my favorite. Everything about this record is some of my favorite things I've heard on this project. So, yeah. Next, we have Ready 24, such a dope feature here with Killa Cam, who is also a part of the off-season. Again, that's kind of why this leads me to believe that this might be an off-season like throwaway, sort of like deluxe type of thing. Just kind of living it up on this one, you know, discussing their careers, how far they've come. Love the sample. It sounds incredible. This is a great beat. Yeah, this is definitely Cole's year, and he kind of discusses that. 2024 is the year he is probably going to drop the Fall Off. There's been a lot of confirmation throughout the project on that. It's got this like 60s R&B vibe. These two are both so influential. It's a really dope link up. Absolute legends on this track. Killa Cam, more often than not, obviously like a fashion icon, but he still had a great rap career as well. So yeah. Next at track 4, we have Huntingwabbits, which is great. Solid production in from T- and Charlie Heat. One of my favorite tracks on the project. This is definitely up there. This is easily at least a top 3. Very psychedelic vibes. He's got this laid back delivery. It's very relaxed to an extent, but you know the lyrics are really sick as well. He sounds poised on this thing as a lyricist. The Meat Canyon sample makes for a fun time. Very funny, kind of some comedic value on a somewhat serious track. He's got this catchy, choppy flow that I love. It's one of my favorite flows on the entire project. This is just a really fun track. I love it. Meat Canyon's hilarious that it's hilarious that he sampled that. So the next track is HYB, which stands for Hide Ya Bitch, which is a classic rap phrase, of course. This track has definitely grown on me, and I feel like I've listened to this project a lot before this review, which I don't do normally for albums, but this album is getting better and better on each listen. You get Boz on here, very unlikely and surprising collab with Central C as well. Central C, shout out to C. He's really maintained a solid music career. I know people have probably assumed that he'd fallen off by now, but no, he's still going crazy. You know, he had some on the radar stuff with Drake. He's dope. I love his music. I don't love his music, but he's got some pretty fun songs at times. Apparently this was previewed on YouTube, but I stopped paying attention after Crocodile Tears was previewed because I wanted to kind of get a fresh listen to the fall off, but now we realize that Might Delete Later stood for a mixtape series, which is really sick. I'm not a fan of drill, but Boz and Cole really elevate this track. Central C wasn't bad either. Definitely a few corny bars, but not a bad track. Probably the weakest out of the ones we have talked about so far. C's accent is somewhat entertaining. He's fun. So, yeah, not a bad song. It's definitely grown on me. The next track is Fever. The female talking at the beginning of the song definitely gives you Drake vibes. Obviously, J. Cole's been around Drake for some time, you know, being on tour and working on music together. So it's obviously gotten a little bit of influence. This is a very mellowed out, very calm track, very short, talks about love pretty much. There's not too much to it. Shout out to ATL Jacob who produced this one. It's pretty catchy, got a pretty dope melody, not too much to say. At this point, you know, the track list starts really good. It's super prominent to start, super iconic songs, and probably some of the best out of in J. Cole's recent discography. But then as we get through, it kind of flattens out, but it's still a really solid project nonetheless. So getting into Sticks and Stones, it's a pretty straightforward track. There's not too much to talk about. It's very boom bappy, which I guess is cool. You know, J. Cole kind of paying homage to the older era of rap. Fun flows here. Doesn't have much going for it, but it's a decent track. I like the beat. Yeah. The next track is Pi. Little math reference here. I'd rather not be reminded of anything academic right now. School has been something this semester, I guess. Cool production here. I love the samples. The sampling throughout the album is just great. It's very good production, very good rapping. It makes for a very good project. It just gives off this classy vibe here. Absol is awesome. I don't know the other guy. Not a lot of content here, just kind of talking to a mic though. It's just a lot of rapping, a lot of bars, one-liners, spiritual, miracle, lyrical, genius stuff. I'm not a huge fan of this track, but it's not terrible. Obviously, the transphobic bars have kind of created a huge controversy with J. Cole on this, so yeah, that's something that's iconic about it, I guess. Not in a good way, really, but yeah. Next up is Stealth Mode. These drill beats, I don't know. I don't want J. Cole to really carry this through the fall off, which is why it's probably a throwaway. I know he's having fun. It's just so generic at times. The samples are cool, but the drum pattern on this song is not great. Obviously, there's a lot of respect here for Boz. I don't really talk about him on the channel, but obviously we've done some weekly track roundups, and he's popped up. He's dropped music there. It's a decent song. That leads us to 3001, another single that was previewed on the YouTube vlog series. I think the part 2. I think they only did 2 parts. I mess with this beat. There's just not much going on. There's really dope verses. I mean, it's overall a pretty good song. There's just not really much to talk about it. Next up, we have Trey, The Truth, and Ibiza. I'm not sure what this track title even means. I haven't really gotten the answer to that either. I've been trying to look. Probably the most beautiful beat on this project, though. I really like the beat on here. Just talking about work ethic and hunger. This is a pretty important song on this mixtape, I think. Very introspective, talking about his team and the desperation to get famous in the music industry. You know, by some of his peers, he has witnessed things. This beat's just fucking amazing though. Beautiful song, lyrics come from the heart. This is definitely a highlight. I would say this is top 3 up there with some of the other ones. So yeah, I gotta go back and re-listen to this. I love this album so far. And that leads us to the last track, which is 7 Minute Drill. I love his rapping here. The beat is pretty double XL Cypher-esque though. It is kind of generic, but the rapping is obviously what we're here for. And I feel like rappers kind of do that on purpose, making a beat generic and not so entertaining, so, you know, they can focus on the rapping. But this is the track everyone has been waiting for, and of course he puts it at the end. That's pretty strategic, It's the response to Kendrick. Seeing this as a diss, you gotta love the Hove takeover callbacks. Like, if you really know, type of thing with, Hove and Nas's beef. And this is very reminiscent of that. Obviously not to the scale right now, but yeah. He's definitely reaching here, though. There are definitely some very questionable bars. I'm not sure how T-Pab, one of the greatest albums ever, is seen as boring. I don't think that's true at all. There's a lot behind this track, though. I mean, he gave himself 7 minutes to write this diss, hence the title, which I thought was pretty cool. He's got this, like, 21 Savage type flow at times. I kind of like it. And I think the conductor Williams produced this. And I think on 3001, I forgot to mention the Alchemist produced 3001. You guys might have to look that up. But I think conductor Williams sampled Energy on here, so that was really interesting. But that's all I got to say track by track. Let's just get into the general notes. I think the game's back from halftime, so I got to get going. So kind of getting into the generalities, kind of getting into like a review of this thing. It's a solid little mixtape. I will give it to J. Cole. I think this is pretty damn good. This was so unexpected, it's actually crazy. Like, hella people are talking about, like, I see headlines all over social media, like, Cole on Pie. J. Cole said this on 7 Minute Freestyle. I'm like, wait, I'm a pretty big J. Cole fan. I've never heard of these songs in my life. Are these like vaulted tracks? And then I'm seeing like, oh, Los Pollos reacted to this, and it's like, oh, NFR Podcast is posting, oh, J. Cole finally responds, and the internet's going crazy. And then I go on Apple Music, I look up J. Cole, and it's like, holy shit, he dropped an album. And I thought this was going to be a couple tracks. I click on it, it's 12 fucking songs. So it was a crazy experience, kind of going into this one. J. Cole's honestly changed up his sound a lot, and I'm quite surprised by that on this. There's definitely some songs that remind you of like the off-season. Not really his old music, but definitely the off-season. Some of these beats sound like they're borrowed from another artist's vault, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like he's definitely has his influences, and that's a problem with a lot of like older rappers that, like, as generations go on, they never really adopt the style of some new rappers. And it's not to be trendy, it's just like, hey, this is kind of cool, let me use this. Like, and J. Cole does that here. There's not too much to say. If you think Mr. Morale, by the way, was better than the off-season, you might be glazing. I do disagree, or on 7 Minute Drill, I do disagree to an extent of some of the things that J. Cole said, but like, saying Mr. Morale is tragic when he dropped the off-season is not really a bad thing. I don't see that as a bad thing. It's not like, oh, you can't just go on Twitter and be like, oh, you dropped the off-season, though, that's worse. It's not. I think the off-season's way better than Mr. Morale, now that we've had years to kind of live with both. The response was pretty corny, but the project is overall, it's pretty solid, definitely up there for one of my favorite projects of the year. Not really saying much. We're not even a third of the way through the year. We have so many albums to drop in the few that are going to drop down the line. Obviously, Playboi Carti. I think Music's probably going to be the album of the year with whatever Playboi Carti drops. Yeah, this was still a really good project. I think this is top 2, top 3. It's up there with Future. It's up there with Yeat's album. It's Future and Metro Boomin, the Yeat album, and this album are probably my top 3 albums of the year so far. I don't really like Vultures, to be fair with you, but leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It's been your boy GZTV. I got to get back to watching this women's basketball game. I'm going to get these clips together very shortly, kind of edit a little bit. I'm not going to do too much there, but I'm going to be putting it on the YouTube channel. This is a pretty big moment for YouTube. Obviously, Metro and Future are dropping next week, so that's super exciting. Their second album, that'll be fun. So, peace out.